the food in Bolivia, for the most part, is really, really good. There's a lot of like classic foods that they have that I would die for to like eat right now. I've been missing a lot of really good stuff. One of the classics is majadito. It's kind of hard to explain. It's like rice, and they've got like some meat in there, and then like deep fried bananas. I love deep fried bananas now. And they have salteñas. It's kind of like, the closest thing to a salteña is like a calzone, but it's a lot better. So you'll definitely run into one of those too. And honestly, it depends, because there are two cultures in Bolivia. There's kind of like the culture of Santa Cruz, and then there's the culture of La Paz. And Americans aren't allowed in La Paz, well, missionaries, so you'll never go there. But sometimes you'll kind of try that food in Santa Cruz, and it's definitely a lot different. You can like tell there's a difference in taste and stuff. One of the really classic foods from La Paz is called chuño. And chuño is like, the best way to describe chuño is like, imagine like a raisin, right? They get a grape and they dehydrate it. Well, chuño is the same thing, but with a potato. I don't understand how, but like they'll get a potato and then they dehydrate it and then they like throw it in some kind of soup or something. But I mean, I like chuño. Other elders don't like chuño, you know? Some like it, some don't. I've had a lot of weird stuff, and if you're in poorer parts of the country, you're more likely to have weird stuff. So be prepared. You're most likely gonna have stomach, liver, chicken foot, chicken heart, probably, oh wait, cow tongue, that one, yeah. Probably the weirdest, most far out food I ever had was cow brain, which actually was not that bad. You may be freaking out right now, but it's not that bad. Let me see. Chicken heart is actually like super good, man. In Santa Cruz, they just, I don't know, it's tradition, but for lunch, and lunch is like the big meal, the dinner doesn't really exist, it's lunch. But for lunch, you have sopa and segundo. Sopa is soup, and the second is kind of like, or segundo is like the entree, you know, which is, you know, rice and whatever else. But it's always, always, always sopa y segundo. Always. You're always going to have sopa y segundo. And it doesn't matter if it's like 150 degrees outside, you are still going to get like a really, really hot bowl of soup. Always. And anyways, I actually really came to like chicken heart, and like it was always like a special surprise if you had a little chicken heart floating in your soup. Like that was really cool. It was really good. Liver is kind of hard to get used to. I'm actually pretty proud of myself, because at the end of my mission I had some liver and I actually liked it. Your taste will kind of change as time goes by. Some stuff though you never really like. Cow tongue is pretty difficult. Stomach is pretty difficult. They just have some really weird textures. They taste kind of okay. But yeah, for the most part, really good food. Oh yeah, the drinks, most of them are really, really good. There's this stuff called mocochinchi, and it's like a peach drink, and it's again, dehydrated fruit, but like they put a dehydrated peach in your cup, and then it's just like a really, really, really sweet peach drink. At first I hated it, and then it took me like a week or two before I loved it to death. There's somo. It's kind of like the same thing. Bolivians really like putting like actual food in their drinks. So like somo is like corn. Like you'll have like kind of like corn kernels, I guess, in the bottom. It's really sweet. It tastes really good. Kind of takes a little bit to get used to. There's another drink that's called chicha, and they have it like in all different kinds of like flavors. You know, there's chicha de soy, chicha, corn chicha, peanut chicha. Like there's tons of different kinds of chichas. And of all of the food in Bolivia, chicha was the most difficult for me. I cannot stand chicha. I cannot drink it. It tastes really bad to me. But I mean, other missionaries love it to death. I think they're crazy, but some do. So yeah, I mean, for the most part, Bolivian food is really good, and there'll probably be a thing or two that you don't really like, and you'll just have to like find creative ways to make it not taste as bad, like putting on insane amounts of hot sauce, or swallowing it without like chewing it or something. You know, you'll find a way.
Okay, Peruvian food is so good. So good. There are some foods in Bolivia that you just cannot live without. But Peruvian food is, you have rice and chicken. I want to say potatoes are kind of the main things that you have. So really you just have a variation of that all the time. You always have rice on your plate. Always. Always. And from somebody who hated white rice, I mean, I hated it. I remember being in the MTC in Peru and I just would gag every bite that I would take, like, oh, this is a whole year and a half of white rice. And then it magically became a thing where if I didn't have white rice on my plate, I thought, where's my rice? I need my rice. And even with pasta, you'd still have rice. You'd have things like, they're called, in fact, I was telling someone about this the other day, they're called alfajores, and they're shortbread cookies, 2 shortbread cookies, and then you have dulce de leche in the middle, and so it's a sandwich, and then it's powdered sugar on top, and it's the most amazing cookie you ever find, and I still just salivate thinking about it. Tons of cakes that are gorgeous, and you know, you'd go to, people have little shops that are in their garages and they're kind of fenced off, and so you kind of just look in and try to see all the treats that you have, and so you'd pick out a Doña Pepa or which is kind of like a chocolate with sprinkles, and then you get something like saltine crackers with chocolate on them, and they're so wildly good you can't even imagine. And then you get to Bolivia and it's not chicken, rice, and potatoes, it's yuca, rice, and meat. And they cook the yuca in so many different ways, and you think you would never eat a yuca root, but it's actually very, very tasty depending on how it's cooked. And so the focus is much more meat, and you have plates like majadito, which is, it's kind of a brown rice that has some sort of flavoring to it that I don't know, and then charque, which is, I think it was kind of shredded beef or something. I never knew what it was. I knew it was charque, and I knew it wasn't chicken, so that's as far as I could tell. And then you get fried plantains and a fried egg, and you put it on top. It sounds so incredibly disgusting. It's so good, and every missionary knew that majadito was a great plate. And another plate they had was salchipapa, which is French fries and hot dogs, and it's just cut up, and you eat it with a toothpick, and that's how you eat it. So the food there is so different. You completely have to get readjusted.
They have rice with everything, just a plate of rice with potatoes. I would say the best food that I had, it's called pique macho, and it's like the stir fry with like hot dogs and French fries, and it's a little spicy, but it's perfect. It's so good. It's like the delicacy down there, and they've got a lot of traditional plates as well. One thing that I'll warn you of is chuño. It's potatoes, and you'll have to ask the first member that you meet how they make the potatoes. They're a little dry, and you'll learn why they're dry, but it's good if it's made the right way. Besides that, the members love to feed you. They will feed you over and over and over and over. Like, if you're done with your plate, I remember just like barely finishing, and as soon as I put the last scoop in my mouth, there was a new like plate full, and even if I wasn't hungry, there was just more food. And that's really how they show that they love you, and they love to give you drinks as well. You'll drink lots of Coca-Cola and lots of Pepsi. So the food's great. I loved it. It was good. Here's a spoiler. They prepare it by putting it out on a tarp, and then they stomp on it, and then they put it back in the freezer, and then they freeze it, and then they put it back out and sun dry it, and then they stomp on it some more just to get all of the liquids and water out of the potato, and then they freeze it again, and then they prepare it. So that's chuño. It's like I said, it's done. If it's done well, it's pretty good.
Their food was basically rice and chicken. That was their go-to thing for everything. Some members would spice it up, and some would make it sweet, but that was mostly what you had every day. They liked fried chicken. That was their favorite. And then we would also have things like liver, or we'd also have chicken feet, which was an interesting one. There's not a lot of meat on it. And then they would also do a lot of fish. And the coolest fish that we had was piranha. And I guess that's a normal thing in Bolivia. It's easier to catch than fish. And so they would do piranha a lot, and it was way good. It tastes the same as fish. But they would do a lot of soups. Their favorite one is peanut soup, basically. And so they would take peanuts and like cook them in water, and that was the soup part. And then they would add creamy stuff to it. I'm not sure what they added, but it tasted good. And then they also like fries a lot. They make them a little bit different, but they're just as good. And then, like I was saying, they love smoothies, and they have amazing fruit there. And their favorite was mango smoothies. They would make mango drinks and mango smoothies and mango pies and everything, because that is what they grew the most there. So you had mango in every type of food you could think of, basically. And we also had alligator, which is really good. It tastes like chicken, just juicier. And they would have a lot of bread. That's what you could get at side stores. They would make them sweet, or they would make them like sourdough bread, or just plain. Our favorite was the sweet bread, because they would add caramel flavoring in the middle to make it really good. And then for dessert, they had like arroz con leche, which is like rice milk, but they use sweetened condensed milk, so it makes it a lot sweeter. And they had some pastries, but not a lot. They weren't big into sweets. And their chocolate was not very good. It's like, it was very different from our chocolate, and they didn't have a lot of it. But when we did get it, members went crazy for it, or when our families would send it, they go crazy for it as well. And my favorite thing was they would put water in plastic bags, and same with soda or anything. And so it was fun to get that just for the plastic bag experience. And they did this because they could get money back for the bottles. And so they would give you a plastic bag and then take the bottles back and refill them or get money for them and stuff. So that was always cool to see.